So are you all McCormick students?
No.
Where else?
Weinberg.
Weinberg?
Communication.
Okay, so how many Kellogg students is that? No, wait, that's more than the number of people in the class.
We have 20 Kellogg students and 30 and 40 non-Kellogg students in the class.
So you've grown this class quite a bit since I taught it last year. I think you should grow it no more than this because it becomes hard to manage all these projects. It's great to see.
We had we had 150 applications for the course, and we only took 60 students.
And that's the first time we had like 25 or something like that.
Yeah.
Good. I also see some familiar faces. Some of you have seen me for the third time. Tech marketing and product management. So some of these ideas and concepts may be familiar to you, but I think two things here. One is they're not familiar to the people who are not here from Kellogg, but the other is that it always bears repetition. And the third thing I'll say is that I'm going to take a startup perspective here, as opposed to sort of sometimes spend too much time talking about the big company perspective. Okay? So I'm going to talk to you about how you bridge from a customer problem to a value proposition. And then how does that value proposition then get elaborated through the development process and across the ecosystem. Because value propositions are not only developed for your customers, but also for all the other stakeholders in the process. In fact, one of the early questions you need to ask as a startup venture is who are all of the players or entities that we will get involved with. And we need to, so to take an example of this, somebody tell me about what you're working on. Yes?
We're working on a project management service for film production.
For film production? Yeah. Okay. So this will help them like schedule shoots and
like task allocation.
Assets and locations and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, more or less.
There are a bunch of software packages that do that right now, right? I've seen some for script writing, silver screener and so on.
Right, yeah, the space is relatively small.
Okay. So who's your customer?
Customer would be like production managers and assistants.
Okay. So who else is relevant here?
We're looking for like a lower budget film production, but like executives who are always kind of chiming into the process.
So the business side of the house.
Right, the crew.
Yeah, the creatives and the suits, and then the project manager, production managers, and so on. So, and they all have different goals and priorities, right?
Yeah, but I think they have a common goal to get the production done, and without kind of going over the budget and kind of making everything.
Some people care more about the budget than others.
Right.
The directors say this got to be done this way, and the execs say this got to be done on a budget, and so on. So good. Somebody else? By the way, what are you going to do for them? Why do they need you?
Because the system that they use now is pretty archaic and inefficient.
So what happens?
So
what is the result? What is the outcome?
To make the process, the communication process and the allocation process between managers and assistants more streamlined. So
it'll reduce the, will it speed up production, or will it reduce the cost of production?
Yeah, I know, it'll add accountability.
Okay. All right, those are some elements of what we'll talk about today. Somebody else? Yes?
We're building real-time customer feedback solutions for small businesses.
And this is by mining all the stuff that's going on online?
No, it's more for the in-store so that you can actually get feedback
from
your
in-store.
shoppers while they're there.
Okay. And how do you collect the data?
We'll collect it through basically mobile surveys.
Okay. And what is your hypothesis about why that could, what problem would that solve for them?
When you go into a store today, very often they're trying to get you to fill out a survey printed at the bottom of your receipt at the end of some sort of sweepstakes, right? You throw away the receipt by the time they get the data, it's too old to do anything with it. A lot of problems, and it's very inefficient.
There's another very important thing. You only get data on people who buy something.
Yep.
9 out of 10 people who come to the store don't buy anything. And where's the growth opportunity? Not from the one guy who bought, from the 9 people who didn't. So, well, this is what Zara does, so you need to study what Zara does. Because Zara does in-store surveys of non-buyers. They watch the exit, not the entry. So figuring out sort of why is it that. So they ask you, why did you not buy? Was it the price? Was it the selection? Was it the service? Was it the quality? Was it the size? That gives them feedback on what they could do to grow the business, right? So that's another value proposition. Okay, so we'll talk about some of these going forward. But anyway, in all of these, you start out with a customer problem. So I'm going to actually parameterize the problem for you. And what's a good problem? How do you know you got a good problem? And then from that problem evolves the value proposition. Okay. So start with the problem. Okay. So this is a very lovely bumper sticker I saw in California. Technology is the solution. Now what was your problem? So you have the answer, but you don't know what the question is. So we got to avoid that. So the important thing to understand is that whatever you're building, that's not what the customer is buying. They are not in the market for a project management software for film production. They're in the market for get this movie launched on time, right? On budget. That's what they're in the market for. They're in the market for a solution. They're not in the market for your product, right? It's the so whatever you're building, your starting point cannot be your product. So that is not what the customer cares about. So they don't wake up in the morning and say, I need software. Or I need a mobile app to do whatever. No, they wake up in the morning saying, I need to wake up in the morning on time, so I need an alarm clock. That is the solution to the problem. Okay? So great starting point is for you to be absolutely crystal clear about the goals and outcomes. Goals and outcomes have to be starting point for you. Right? So that's really what we're going to say. How do we make sure that we get at that outcome focus? And if you look at companies that have been successful, I'll give you examples of those. They were very clear about what outcomes they enabled. It's very clear to be able to, to articulate that. So, and then by the way, when you're clear about the outcomes, you become clearer about the tasks that they need in order to reach those outcomes. And when you become clear about tasks, what is nice about being clear about tasks is that straight away maps to the functionality and the features that you need to build in your product. Because they will be means to an end. So your product is a means to an end, you need to start with the end. You need to start with the outcome. So, so I like what the Revlon people say, in the factories we make cosmetics, in the store we sell hope. Right? So that's the outcome. The outcome is immortality, age, their products also called age-defined makeup, and so on and so forth. So it's really about, there are a lot of people selling hope. You see all the Jenny Craig ads and Weight Watchers, and you're going to look like Jennifer Hudson, good luck with that. So it's all the hope business. Match.com, eHarmony, it's all the hope business. So that's it. So it's not about cosmetics. In fact, there was a very interesting book written called Hope in a Jar. It was about the cosmetics industry. So I like what the CEO of Cemex is a company that makes cement. I love what he says. He says our real business is helping customers complete their construction projects. By the way, you can adapt this for our real business is to help movie makers complete their movie projects on budget, right? Because he says at the end of the day, no one wants to buy cement. They want to build a house or a road or a bridge, right? That's what we want to do. What we try to help them do. So that's just something to, and sometimes, all this might sound obvious and cliched, but it is not clear sometimes. You get very far down the development process and it's not clear what the problem that you're solving is. Okay. So here's some examples of problems that startups solve. I like the Blue Nile problem. How can I buy diamonds without looking foolish? Who buys diamonds? Guys do. Who do they buy diamonds for? Right? Not for guys. And what do they know about diamonds? Nothing. Do men like admitting they know nothing? They don't like asking for directions. They don't like asking for advice or help. They want to, so they have, so you're stuck between this macho, I know everything and I don't need advice from nobody, and ignorance, and you're looking at a very high value purchase. So that's what Blue Nile allowed you to do. It brings transparency to that process. And actually, when they first came out, people said, "Who is going to buy, $10,000 of solitaires on the web?" And what ultimately they proved is that it's all about information, and the information that they're providing is superior to what you get when you walk into a store. So, Craigslist. How can I find stuff and services close by? I got a couch, I need to get rid of it. How do I do that? So that's, open table. How do I find what restaurants have open tables today or with the time that I want to go? And then can I get the table? That's the interesting thing. A lot of people tell you. So look how the problem was solved partially. I can tell you what restaurants there are. I can tell you what restaurants are good. If you call me, I'll tell you if I have a table. But they bridge that end-to-end process. So find a place when you want it, find a place for the number of people that you want it, and make a booking and get it confirmed instantly. And, that's Facebook. How can I stay connected? Initially, by the way, it was how can I stay connected with my classmates. Then it became how can I stay connected with people I care about. The reason I am still not on Facebook, I'm one of the 800 million people. I'm not one of the 800 million people because I found that it was connecting me to people I don't care about. So, which was very exciting initially because I discovered a lot of my classmates who come out of the woodwork. I've been out some 25, 30 years. So, like, wow, you have all these kids and you've done all these things and I still don't care about you, and I never did. So, so I signed off from Facebook. I like Twitter better because Twitter is an asymmetric network. So I like to talk, not listen. So I can talk. I don't need to listen to anybody. I don't need to respond to anybody. So anyway, that's just my personal biased opinion. So anyway, but these are, the point is that when you look at these startups, you can define, like Akamai said, how do we decongest the internet? When I remember meeting the founders of Akamai, and when you describe it this way, I said the internet is like is like traffic in a big metro area. It's congested, it's jammed, we decongest the internet. Oh, I get it. You don't need to explain to me that this is going to be a big problem. So that's something that you need to get to this. This, by the way, sometimes, I think in your, correct me, like in your canvas, the business model canvas, there's a high level concept pitch, right? So there's sort of a very brief summary of the value prop. This is what you need to get to, right? A phrase, that really crisply describes what you do. Like Zipcar says, wheels when you need them in a city. So the key is to find a job that your product gets hired to do. Because what is this telling? I like this jobs philosophy because what it says is that ultimately your customer has a job they need to get done. Right? They have a job they need to get done. They have a problem they need to get solved, and your product has a purpose and a reason. And the reason is for its existence is it performs a job for them. And this job may not be obvious sometimes. It might sound, what job does a Harley Davidson get hired to do? Motorbike.
Make you a badass.
Make you a badass. Urban cowboy, rebellion. It certainly does not solve, you don't get hired to transport you. You may hire to transport your ego. It also, there is no destination. A motorcycle is a form of automobile that gets you from point A to point B. Wrong. There is no point B for Harley people. They're just like going on in circles. You see them on roads. I don't know where they're going. They don't know. But it's the journey is the destination. So the job it gets hired to do is to basically bring out the weekend warrior, cowboy, whatever it is, And their fastest growing segment is women who are like, caught in whatever work or family and all, but on the weekend they put on their leather pants and so on. So that's the job. So, and if you keep that in mind, They almost lost that 20 years ago in the 80s, where they said we need to make our bikes sleeker and we need to reduce the noise. So they were looking at it from terms of improving the functionality. Sorry, I want a loud, crude bike, because that is what this is all about. So don't make them modern, please. So that's so understand. So by the way, these jobs, as this Harley example points out, may not be functional. They may have to do with ego. They may have to do with emotions. So that's also it's a totally legitimate job. Okay? And the job that the product gets hired to do will also be situation specific. You know, the job that fast food restaurants get hired to do. When I'm driving along the highway, I got two kids in the back seat and they're screaming, "Are we there yet? We are hungry." The job that it gets hired to do is different from if you're a commuter just stopping by and picking up a coffee. So you got to know those, and by the way, that's what we mean by contextual or scenarios, right? So that's something that we need to get from the idea of selling drills to selling holes. I don't think this is right either. What is the purpose of the hole? Are you hanging a picture or building a table, piece of furniture? So that's really what you want to get to. So these are some of the questions that you need to ask to discover open jobs that customers might have. What is the problem? By the way, whenever you, so let me talk about sort of your movie production application. Your first starting point would be to ask them, what are the problems that you face? So you mentioned some: inefficiency, lack of accountability, potentially, like one thing, and I know a little bit more about this than I should, because that's what my thesis work was on movies, that in terms of scouting locations and arranging for location, if you got a scene that's going to be shot now and a scene that's in the end of the movie and the scene in the middle of the movie, if you could sort them and shoot all those scenes, particularly if it's an expensive location, that will save you costs rather than, oh damn, we got to go back to Italy because we got to shoot that last scene again there. So there's a cost issue. Things are expensive. So those are, but it doesn't matter what you think. These are the problems where you have to ask them, because you may hypothesize certain problems, but you might find that the reality is somewhat different. Why do they care about solving it? Sometimes people say, you know what, it's okay. This is life. I'm all right with it. This is the movie business. It's enough. It's just the way it is. So they actually need to experience this as a pain point, right? How frequently do they encounter the problem? Okay, so that's something else you need to think. By the way, can any of you tell me one of the ideas you're working on is a problem that you think customers have a lot? Give me one more example of what you're working on.
We're working on improving the effectiveness of teachers during lectures by providing anonymous feedback to the lecturers.
Improving what?
The effectiveness of teaching.
Effectiveness of teaching.
Students provide anonymous feedback signal during a lecture, and the professor can adjust his pace or his way of delivery accordingly.
Please don't do that. I have a bad enough problem with students tweeting from my class, so I can't reuse the jokes in my next class. So sometimes, I used to teach 2 sections, and they tweet everything by 10 o'clock, and 10:30, and I'm done. Okay, so in this case, by the way, you really should speak to professors, like people like me. I don't think I want to solve this problem, because it's actually going to create other problems for me. Because now I need to do real-time adaptation. Hey, I got my slides, take it or leave it. Right? This is so. This is, by the way, a common mistake people sometimes. I'm not saying you're making this mistake, but when I was talking to a company that came to me and said, we give you it was somewhat similar. They said, we give you this way that you can interact with your students outside the class, because some of the problems or questions that don't get asked in the class continues the dialogue and discussion. This was 10 years ago. It was some sort of a bulletin board forum discussion functionality. So they had very clearly thought through the value proposition for students. would have been richer discussion. They asked me, so I said, why would I be interested in this? They're like, don't you care about a richer learning experience? They're like, yeah, I do. Not on my time. So if this means I'm now accessible 7/24 and I got to respond to blog posts or discussion posts at 2 a.m. because now students have a new expectation that I just posted some question for you at 2 o'clock, why you have not replied till 4 o'clock. I don't want that. So be careful, because professors are incredibly lazy and they want to maximize the effort, the outcome they get with the minimum effort. I'm just speaking for myself. So, some of my other colleagues may think different, but don't assume that this is a problem they want to solve. Okay, so that starts to scare me a little bit. I get real time. I gotta not do this or that based on the feedback that's coming. But clearly, this problem is very frequent because this happens every day and every unit. But on the other hand, if it's like, we'll help you sign up for, let's say you're creating a website that will sell coffins, making this up. It's not a frequent purchase, right? Unless you believe in reincarnation. But so that's a problem. It may be a big problem, but it's not encountered very frequently. And there the problem is, how do you keep it salient in the minds of the customer all the time? What is the current workaround? This is very important for you to understand. Please do not tell me we have no competition, because we're the first ones to do this. Yes, you're the first ones to come up with this idea, but there is a current workaround. There is always a competing way of doing things. If there is not a competing product, there's a competing way of doing things. Just because Kindle was the first e-reader doesn't mean people didn't read books before, right? They didn't read books electronically. So you said, we have no competition because we are the first e-reader. Yes, you do have competition from reading. So that's just something to keep in mind, that you always need to understand the status quo. What is it that they're currently doing, right? Why did they select the option that they select? What do they like about it? By the way, this might be relevant for your movie production thing. What are they, do they currently use some software? They must use something. Spreadsheets maybe, or whatever?
They use Excel.
They use Excel and, or some other, what else do they do?
There's some call sheet software, like Celtex.
Mostly Excel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, why do you think they choose Excel?
Widely accessible.
Yes, it's there, right? Everybody's got it, everybody understands it, and the learning cost is not very high. So that's what they perhaps like about the option. They don't have to pay for it, it's already there, they know how to use it. And the one other thing people tend to like about Excel is that they have full control over whatever they're doing. Because any system you're going to create, they will have to learn it, and it will not entirely be optimized to their needs. But the problem is, it is chaos, because everybody's got their islands of information, right? So what do they like about the option? What don't they like, and what frustrates them? These are some of the questions. So go through this thought process as you are talking to your clients. So here's some examples of potential problems. Watching TV is about the simplest experience, right? It requires minimum brain power, and but here are some of the problems that I face. My kids always lose the remote. Okay, by the way, I want you to think about a solution for each of these. Finding the remote, what's the solution? There could be 6 solutions I can think of.
Mobile app or not?
What?
Not having one.
Not having one.
Yeah, like Kinect style control.
I got that at home. The Microsoft guys gave me a Kinect thing and they've launched an entertainment service now. And now I change my channels, or I talk to it. Say, give me channel 23. Give me ESPN. And so in fact, that was their whole insight. You are the controller. So that's one. What if you made everything into a remote control? Put on the iPhone, put it on the iPod Touch, put it on the iPad, so you don't need a remote, right? But so one extreme is there is no remote, the other extreme is everything's a remote. What else? You could have a remote that talks to you. I'm here, right? You could locate it by sending out a beep or a signal or whatever. right? So you could press a button on the TV and it will start. This is like
I lost the remote.
what's that? Yeah, then you lost the remote. This is like somebody gave my sister-in-law this keychain that helps you, that she can like if she can't lose, or it helps you find the car. So she's like, okay, now I'll remember the keychain, but where the hell is the car, right? So you might. So there are other problems you can run into. But anyway, turning on all the components. This is a problem. So here, universal remote would be the solution. Finding something good to watch. It's incredible. The more there is to watch, the less there is anything good to watch. Agreeing upon what to watch. So it could be a voting mechanism. I don't know. There's a TV now that allows you to watch 2 different programs at the same time using goggles. Real. This is real. This was launched last month. Not disturbing other people when you watch. Great workaround I saw. One of my colleagues, he said, I have to watch TV before I go to bed. And my wife hates it. So here's the solution they've come up with. She bought a mask and he bought headphones. So she turns off her video and he turns on his audio. But she closes her eyes and he puts on his big headphones and watch. They're wireless, so you can watch TV. So that's, so anyway, the point, watching anywhere you want, watching in bright sunlight, watching children-appropriate programs, surfing the web while you watch, taking your phone call when you watch. So this is, Comcast has this now, where the phone call comes, it's white, right? So it'll show up on your TV, you have a call from so and so on. You can actually take the call from your TV. So, point is that if you dig deep, there are lots of problems. And you know who's going to solve all these problems? The Apple TV, iTV, that's probably going to come out this year sometime. So, watch this space. These guys, that's what they're going to do next. They're going to build a television set.
Except for bright sunlight, because they love the glossy screens.
They'll make your room go dark. That would be the Apple way. My way or the highway.
They cast the shadow of darkness.
Yeah, I know. That's what the Kindle guys say. So the job to be done needs to get described in terms of 3 things. Who is the customer? What do they want to accomplish? And what is the context? Okay. By the way, why is the third piece important? The context. Because that same job, in a different context, might be a different outcome. As I was saying, with the fast food restaurant, it depends on the situation, right? So the working mother, minimize the amount of time I have to spend on household so I can spend more time with my family, right? So the customer is a homemaker, and the result is she wants more time, okay? And the context is doing housework. So these are 3 descriptors of a job to be done. By the way, when you are describing your core concept, it might be helpful for you to define this job that you are getting done. And it may be more than one job, but I think you need to be careful about the primary job. Okay? To prioritize your jobs, it needs to be important. Important as in it's of great relevance and it's critical to them. There are minor annoyances and major problems. The second thing, it needs to be frequent. Something they do very commonly, very frequently. That's why Google is so powerful, because you're searching all the time. Not something you do once in a while. And the third thing is that the level of frustration with the current best available alternative should be high. The current workaround should be suboptimal, significantly suboptimal. And by the way, you need to know what that current workaround is. And you need to have clear evidence that there's a lot of frustration. And this is where I would say that the idea that you talked about real-time feedback with Twitter, you need to make sure that both the students and the professors and the administration, everybody agrees that they are frustrated, that they're not getting real-time feedback. Because some people I know don't even look at feedback because they're not interested in changing. Now, that's not a good answer, but that's the way it is. And reality is what it is. So job-based opportunity is you need to actually multiply these 3 things. That's the index of opportunity. Importance times frequency times level of frustration. This will help you prioritize, because there are many potential things product or service could do for your customers. Okay, so that's the prioritization. So here's an example that it doesn't pay to be in the newspaper business right now, right? Newspapers are going out of business. But my contention is that there are a number of open jobs. Now, the irony is that they would post job listings, but they didn't know what job they were doing. So there are these are some potential jobs that they could have done. You know, they could have been the trusted local brand for finding products and services, right? Because they know the local neighborhood or the local city. But since they didn't step up to that, who stepped in? Craigslist, or Metromix, or Open Table, or Angie's List. Because, you know, while newspapers will list, here are the services that are available, how do I know they're any good? That's what Angie's List did for you, actually gave community-based reviews. You know, Zagat, so many people started to get into this space. They had listings for used furniture for sale or furniture, but they would not allow you to actually complete the transaction. And that's what eBay did, and that's what Craigslist did. They would allow you to actually sort of take the next step. So they could have engaged, they could have educated, they could have entertained, they could have enlightened, they could have empowered. But, you know, I think the problem is that they thought of themselves as being in the business of providing you with information. And that is not the only job they need to complete. So some of them have done a better job than this, like Boston.com came out of Boston Globe and so on. So to test whether you've got a good customer problem, there are 7 things that I would share with you. Solve a problem that is real. What does this mean? Where can you go wrong here? What do you mean by a non-real problem? Anybody?
Well, it might be real in your head, but not real to the
Yes.
people you're selling it
It's very real in your head, and your validation approach is to look at your neighbor. And you get really convinced that this problem is real. And then you talk to 3 other engineers down the hall. And they also tell you, yep, totally, we totally have this problem. And then you're ready to launch. So that's where you got to be careful. The problem must be real. And by the way, in your case, I am questioning whether the problem is equally real for all the people involved. This may be a problem that's more real for students than for professors, because they may care more about providing feedback than professors do about getting feedback. That's just a thought, but I'm just saying that the problem may be real for certain constituencies and not real for other constituencies. So that's something you got to make sure. There is a real problem. You know, and I've got examples here, like, you know, this company called Care Pages. They solved a problem that I actually didn't think was real, but it was real. And the problem they solved is, when you have a member of your family or a loved one who is facing a very serious illness and they're in hospital, how do other people find out how they're doing and sympathize with you and give you moral support? Now, how people used to do it is that they would call you, but calling sometimes is not convenient because you don't know if people are, families in the hospital, they're getting too many phone calls, you don't know what time to reach them. And,
The illness might prevent them from actually taking a phone call.
Yeah. And particularly if you're in a hospital and so on. So what these guys did is they created a website. It was initially called Tender something or the other, but now it's called Care Pages. And the Care Pages is essentially an application that it's a website that allows people to say, give feedback, and then the family in turn can post pictures or updates, or that's the other thing. When something like this happens, think about the phone calls that come in. What is the first question they ask? How are they doing? And about 68 times you have to answer this question, you get really sick of it. So it's like, here's how they're doing. Please do not ask that question. And the second question, they are like, how can we help? Here's how you can help. Stay away, or whatever it is. So what is interesting is who's the customer? Who's the customer? It is the trick question. Anybody? Come on, guys, it's not that hard. Yeah? No. What they ended up doing was offering this as a service that hospitals provide to their patients. B2B model. Because yes, that's the end customer. But they are not willing to pay for the service. So they said as part of the hospital's package of post-care recovery or whatever it is, they actually set this thing up for you and say, here's your care page. And these guys signed up several hundred hospitals and sold the company for many millions of dollars. By the way, how did this start? When their child was very sick. They had a 7-year-old who was in intensive care. They experienced this. So this is where real pain leads to a startup venture. So anyway, there was a couple who started this company. A Chicago-based company. I don't know what they're doing now, but solve a focus problem. Right? The narrower your focus is, the bigger your revenues will be. This is sort of a paradox. But you really need to focus. If you think you're focused, focus some more. The diapers.com is a very interesting example of a focused company, that their only problem that we're looking to solve is how do we set up a website to do e-commerce and distribution for very bulky, low-value products like diapers. And eventually Amazon bought them. Solve a problem that's big. Organizing the world's information, that ain't a small problem. And it's only getting bigger, right? Solve a problem that's hard. Technically hard. There's got to be something difficult about what you're doing. I remember many years ago, the founders of eToys came to me and said, this is what we're doing. And you know what's really neat about our idea? We're like 3 guys in a garage, and we've outsourced our distribution logistics, our website development, our CRM, and we got this company running really lean. So I said, hold on. What's stopping 3 other guys in a garage from doing exactly what you're doing? Because the very fact that it makes it so easy for you to do what you're doing means that there are no barriers to entry for anybody else. And then if you tell me the only way you're going to win is you're going to execute faster, good luck with that. So you have to be really careful. And that, by the way, is something that all of you, because when you guys are in a situation where you're not hugely endowed with either assets or relationships or money or, for that matter, experience. You're pretty crummy, when you think about it. You've been sent into the ring, featherweights with nothing on. So you really got to be clever about what's proprietary, what's defensible, and what is something that is not imitable, that is not copyable, that's not easy to replicate. So can some of you talk to me about what is the, by the way, we call this the moat. What is the moat you're building around your idea that will prevent people? By the way, a good test of an idea is twofold of this particular. One, use the 3 other guys in a garage question. Why can't they do it? Right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. And the other thing is that what is the specific moat that you're building around it? Other than we're going to execute faster. So anybody got a moat?
Do you think that our team has specific data mining skills that we can use to do sentiment analysis and social media analysis?
Okay, that's fair. Although I would double click on that and sort of find out what is it that you guys know about data mining that a lot of other people don't.
So two of the people in our team are doing advanced computer science research in that area, and they've done some prototypes.
You're not working with Alok, are you? Alok,
I don't know.
Alok Chowdhury. He's at data mining in ECS. He's done. He's got. By the way, Bjorn, you need to know what he's up to, because he's got this thing called pulseofthetweeters.com or something like that, where they're doing sentiment analysis on Twitter and so on. And he's got a bunch of PhDs working on this stuff. So yeah, so that's fair. Where you have some, so that's it's this proprietary skills, right? Any other modes? But this is a tough question. This is not easy. Don't say I thought of it first. I'm going to run faster than the other guys. That's all good, but I need better than that. Anything from you guys? What's your mode?
I think some of us have experience in film production, so the emotion factor.
Okay.
We're not just these. We're not all tech people.
Right, you empathize with the
Right.
how these guys really think.
Right.
Okay, that's another form of competitive advantage, which is that you have a unique understanding of the customer. But there are stronger modes and weaker modes, right? Intellectual property is the strongest mode you can have. Relationships. You know, you say we've got deals with these companies, or you know, we can get distribution through Dell or something like that. So, but think very carefully about that. Right? Solve an obvious problem. This is sort of the high concept test. Right? Groupon is, you know, an obvious problem. It's group meets coupon. You get it. The name says it all. You don't even need to articulate what the value proposition is. Solve a complete problem. Best Buy's problem was completed only when they acquired Geek Squad. Because when you buy a TV, that's not the full problem. What do you do after it comes home? And this is one problem that, you know, some of the online companies have, is that online life doesn't begin and end online. So, so what you need to be able to do is to make sure that you are solving the problem completely and that you're not leaving the customer at the altar. Find the problem that's getting worse. Has anyone tried the site, thefind.com? Check it out. It's kind of like if you're looking for a black cocktail party dress, you go to thefind.com. Is there a meta search engine that searches across all retailers? But you can do some really cool things like narrow by color, only black dresses, or by fabric. You know, so they have some really interesting ways of. Now, this problem is getting. Why do I say it's a worsening problem? Because the amount of inventory and sites that have retailers that are on the web is only going to mushroom and explode. So this is basically a shopping search engine, right? So, or a meta search engine. So those are 7 tests that you should know about your problem. So this is a summary of the questions that, this is the first part of what I want to talk to you about is the customer problem. Who are your audiences? What are their problems or pain points? What are your evidence that these pain points are real? That sort of is the problem real. What do they do currently? What's lacking? How is your solution better? How big is this delta that you're creating for your customers? How much will they pay for it? It might be marginally better, it might be cute, it might be nice to have. Is it a must-have? What's in it for other stakeholders besides the end customers? Why hasn't somebody else thought of your idea yet? It's very egotistical to say, nobody's thought of this. We're the first guys to figure this out. Are you sure? That's why I have another question. Are you sure nobody's thought of this idea before you? Because if you dig deep enough, everything's been invented. That should not frustrate you or disappoint you, because it doesn't matter. They might not have gotten it right. But very rarely, very, very rarely will you be the absolute first. And by the way, absolute first doesn't win. In many cases, it's not the first to start, it's the first to finish. So be careful about that. What's proprietary, right? What makes it your idea defensible, unique? And what makes your team uniquely qualified to implement your idea? So that's where when you told me that there's something about your team meets that 3 other people in a garage test. Because show me other 3 guys who got these kinds of data mining skills, and I say, yeah, okay. But if you show me 3 MBAs or 3 engineers or 3 engineer MBA randomly picked from any school, can they do this? Then you got a problem. Okay. So that's something to think about. Do you feel good about your problem based on these tests?
Less and less.
No, because I mean, you guys are really quiet. So like, either you're doing checks in your head, or you're doing crosses, right? So, but push yourself. This is discipline. I'm making sure that you've actually got something that is viable, that will work, and that people will pay for. So those are the questions. Okay. Next, we'll talk about value propositions. So what's a value prop? It's a benefit statement, right? It's a statement of what are the potential benefits we're going to offer to our customers that will make it worth their while. Because ultimately, a value proposition is a deal. It's an offer. If you do this, this will happen. And by the way, this will happen means the benefits or outcomes that customers can expect. And in return, this is what I need from you. Because nothing is free. This is what I need from you. And it has to be better than alternatives that they might currently consider. Okay, so, and by the way, you have to support it by reasons to believe. Okay, why should they believe you? So those are the elements of a value proposition. The benefits. By the way, why do I say potential? Because this is done ex ante. This is done in advance. The customer is making a bet that if they do business with you, this is what they're going to get out of it. The product is the delivery of the value proposition. Value proposition is the promise. Okay? Particularly for a new product, or a next version or existing product, that's something we'll talk about next quarter. We'll talk about positioning. That's the communication of what you've actually built. But right now I'm talking about before you built the product. Okay? So here's an example of a value proposition. You guys shop at IKEA? Anybody got IKEA furniture? Yeah, you guys are the target audience. Why IKEA? Why don't read this? Tell me, why do you go to? Why IKEA, not anything else? Anybody want to tell me? Throw away furniture. It's basically something that looks good while you have it, and then is programmed to self-destruct after 2 years. Then you can move on with your life. So that's you're right. You don't want to buy estate furniture and make a huge commitment, but at the same time you want something that looks good and is affordable, right? Okay. Any other reasons?
I can disassemble it and reassemble it really easily. Well, not really easily, but it's possible.
Do you want to come to my house and assemble my furniture?
But I'm moving often.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that IKEA does. That it's basically the trade-off that they're asking. By the way, as I said, nothing is free. They tell you that you pay less, but some assembly required. But they make it easy to do that. They try to minimize that. Okay? So it's and which, by the way, is consistent with what you were saying, that if you need to move or you need to, but within the 2 years you might still, even within that 2 years you might move. So you can take it apart, put it back together. So that's it. So it's stylish, it's space efficient, right? Because you guys aren't living in giant mansions, right? So it's got to fit well within the space that you have, and it's scalable, modular, at a low price for young, first-time, price-sensitive buyers who are willing to invest some time in and effort in buying and assembling furniture. By the way, it requires effort in buying too. Of course, now they have delivery service and they have assembly service too for the people like me who don't know how to assemble stuff. So this is very. By the way, one important thing I want to sort of emphasize is that the value proposition is not just a slogan. This is the backup. Everything they do flows from here. The design of their stores, the inventory, the how-to instructions, the packaging, the store hours, the size of the parking lots, the in-house designers, the look and feel, the fact that they have daycare in their stores, that they have long hours, everything is designed to focus on that value proposition. And one thing I want you to really understand here, and it's a very important insight, is think about all the things IKEA does not do. They do not target affluent customer. They do not target expensive, customizable furniture. They do not go into cities in urban areas. Yeah.
So we didn't talk a lot about design, like your unique value proposition and what your goal would be. And I feel like with IKEA, it's a good example where design, of all those things, design is probably the first thing that made them successful, and a lot of other things that got them having that initial successful design. So what are your thoughts on just that leading up? What if we just had a better vision than others who maybe had an idea but didn't see it as clearly?
Yeah, I mean that's entirely where Apple's coming from. It's not that they didn't invent anything new, but they have a very unique design sensibility, and so does maybe Brown, or BMW, or Bang & Olufsen, or an IKEA, yes, and these are companies that, or Gillette for that matter, what they do. So design can be a very important competitive advantage. The only problem is that it's kind of like seeing is believing there. So if you have confidence that you have a unique point of view from design, absolutely. That's a very defensible advantage, but it's kind of hard to say on paper. You got to show it.
They probably didn't have any moat besides design when they started, right? Same with Groupon, right? They didn't.
No, price point was too. I mean, they supply chain. I mean, essentially they had to. IKEA's entire business system is geared towards producing low cost. By the way, it's not just that they want you to assemble the furniture. It's the fact that they can ship it boxed. You know that saves a significant amount in their logistics. Because shipping cubicle boxes is way more space efficient, not only when you assemble the furniture, but when you put it in container ships. Because you're packing stuff much more densely. So, same thing with the store. I mean, keeping inventory in boxes is far more space efficient than keeping inventory of like having beds and all fully assembled, right? So yeah, design is important here, and certainly is in many instances. But that's one of those things where it's kind of hard for me to prove until I see it.
Yeah.
So what value propositions do is at the inbound stage, they align your development and marketing and all the people in the team on what are the key priorities. Get people on the same page. And they help you prioritize what are we going to build, what are we going to leave out. Because this really helps you make the feature cut add decisions and the prioritization. When we get to the outbound stage, you actually, since you know what you built, you know what to say. So it also helps you in your deriving and positioning and messaging teams. That's something we'll talk about later, not today. But here at the inbound stage, it really helps you get on the same page. And this is how it works organizationally. That your value prop feeds inbound to engineering and outbound to marketing. In terms of inbound, what it does is the value proposition informs the scenario implementation requirements. But the value prop includes discussion of the scenarios, and then the scenarios, how they need to be implemented, and the implementation requirements get translated into features and specs. On the marketing side, the value prop gets translated into differentiation themes, and those differentiation themes then guide the development of positioning and messaging. So this is the inbound and outbound role that a value prop plays. Right now, you're focused here. Okay? Because what's your value prop, what's your persona, what are the key scenarios, that will tell you what you need to, what are the implementation you need to do, and therefore what features you need to build. So but next, when you get to market, you have to think about the outbound. So let's look at the value prop framework. I defined the value prop in a statement, but here's the breakdown. This is kind of a seven element breakdown of the value prop. And first of all, let me illustrate that this is a teeter-totter. So the teeter-totter metaphor illustrates the idea that value is a trade-off. The customer gets something, they give up something in return. And it's got to be a good deal. By the way, this teeter-totter should not be balanced this way, it should be tipped this direction. That's right. So from the left-hand side, what the customer gets, the right-hand side is what they give up. So what do they get? The promise. The promise is the sense of benefits that they get. So if you're talking about your movie project planning application, the benefit they'll be, well, the benefits should always be defined in terms of outcomes. That they will be able to become more efficient and deliver their movies on budget and on time. That's kind of the promise. Okay. The differentiation, how are you different? How are you better than whatever else that they might consider? So vis-a-vis Excel, I think you can define how you're better or different. Everybody's on the same page. Information is unified, and there's greater accountability and no silos of information. Right? And then the support is the backup, the backing. Notice that the promise and differentiation are claims. Support is the evidence. Why should I believe you? Hello, why should I believe you?
As a customer or as...
Yeah, I'm talking like a customer. I'm the movie guy.
Because your alternatives were made in like 96 and 97. I mean, it's like there aren't any good alternatives. And so why not try something new? That's not that convincing, I know.
Come back to me in 2016. No, that's you have to. By the way, why should I believe you can be a feature, because if you're saying because we will offer a single version of the truth for the entire team, that everybody's looking at the same information, there's no disconnect between. Because we will have specific functionality that will create accountability. That's why we're better, right? So that's the. So you really have to have these sort of. By the way, the best evidence, of course, is when you're in the market. Go talk to another customer. That's the best kind of support you can offer. But right now you don't have that, so you have to use features as a support. Later you get customer testimonials as a support, right? And eventually, you do what Oracle says, or SAP says. 15 out of 20 banks use SAP. So you know what? We don't need to tell you anymore. So, but you have to get there. On the right-hand side is price. What is your total price from cradle to grave? By the way, this is not only buying, but maintaining and installing and using and deploying and so on. Second is the effort. By the way, effort is where you are going to need to make a case, because Excel is effortless. But you have to convince them that there are other elements of effort they're not thinking about right now. The effort in terms of dealing with the inefficiencies, the effort in terms of multiple, versions of the truth and so on. Because they will focus on the effort in using, and they'll say, this is Excel is easier than what you're building for me. Because I got to learn your software, and I got to install it, and I got to teach other people. So you have to show them what. And the third is risk. What could go wrong? By the way, one thing that can go wrong with everybody who's in the room is you could disappear. Because you're startups. I'm taking a risk. Particularly if you're building something for me that's mission critical. It's going to become a critical. Once I use your product, it's like baked into my operations. And that is true for you. I mean, if the customer does that, this is not something that's kind of cool to do on weekends. This has become their operating system, right? And then you guys disappear. Because you lose your funding, or you fight amongst the co-founders. What am I going to do now? Where's my upgrade path? So that's something that you need to think about carefully. By the way, one way to combat that would be, say, we're open standards, or we're open source, or whatever it is, right? So you can get other people to build on this. And the seventh element is the target customer. What is the scenario? What have you optimized this product for? So those are the 7 elements. This illustrates a very important insight. The fact that there are at least 7 ways to strengthen your value prop. It's not just about finding a more compelling promise. It's about reducing effort. Right? In fact, some years ago, Dell ran a campaign. It was called Easy as Dell. Right? So it's about ease of use. It's about sort of simplicity, the fact that they have a direct website, and so on and so forth. Sometimes it's about mitigating risk. Hyundai's, 100,000-mile warranty. What did they do? They took the risk out of the equation. Saying, don't worry about your car. We'll take care of it. So that's something to think about. You can either mitigate the right-hand side, or you can enhance the left-hand side. Or you can change the target customer. So here's an example of a game-changing value prop. So you have this PlayStation and the Xbox 360. And the basic premise that both of them were offering was superior performance. but the core target audience. And one of the things Nintendo did, their core deal was to actually change the target audience. It was gaming for the rest of us. This is a very common assumption. Gaming is for gamers, right? Why shouldn't gaming be for gamers? Yes, but what about real people? Real people, you know, who have a life, you know, and whose reflexes aren't what they used to be. They can't use this thing. I mean, these are nuclear warheads. You know, I have a PlayStation in my house. My son has it. So, one day he's 19, so I said, can I play with you? One day he was playing this thing. It was Mortal Kombat. He played Mortal Kombat. One of those multiplayer games and so on. So he gives me a controller. We're playing with some guys in Croatia or something, you know. So it was like worldwide, whatever. You could join any game. I had blown to smithereens 100 times in like 2 minutes. You know, I shooting at me from all over. So I'm old. I can't like react like 18-year-olds do. So he said, you know, give it up. You're just killing me. You know, when his achievement level or whatever it is going down because you got a sucky partner. You know? So he said, let it be. You know, don't do this to me. So then I said, is there something I can embarrass myself in private with? I don't have to play with other players. So he said, here, it's Gran Turismo, the auto racing thing. So he watched me play that for 2 minutes. I crashed the car 100 times because it's just too damn fast, you know. And he tells me, guess who's got the driving license here? Right? You know, because he was just learning to drive the car. So he says, I can like drive 200 miles an hour on slick roads on my PlayStation. Anyway, so I was totally humiliated. And so I went upstairs where we have the Wii, and I played badminton with my younger daughter. It was a dumb machine for dumb people. And it worked beautifully because 95% population is dumb. So that's the idea. Family-friendly games, you know, and casual gamers. So they really expanded what is interesting is now Microsoft is looking to change the Xbox equation and making it an entertainment service as opposed to just a gaming console. So they've added the Connect TV service and so on. So these benefits that we talked about are of 3 kinds. There are functional benefits, which relates to what the product does. There are economic benefits in terms of what it saves, time and money. And then there are emotional benefits, which is how it makes people feel. Now I want to talk to you again about your movie project planning software. What is the emotional benefit? Well, I think you can tell me the economic benefits, right?
Right.
Say efficiency, times, money saving, and all that, right?
For the emotion benefit for, I mean, there are kind of 2, so I'll describe for the production managers. They're likely to get their tasks done like faster, and they'll know who's doing it, and then the PAs will, on the production assistant end,
how does it make them feel? How does it make them feel? That's the key.
more efficient.
Less frustrated. I feel like they
Don't say efficient. That's not a feeling. I don't feel efficient. You know.
Useful.
I don't feel useful either. I feel useless.
less frustrated.
Less frustrated. That, you know, you're selling an aspirin to them.
Because they currently have to read these like disgusting call sheets full of information for everyone, and if there's something, you know, tells them what they need to do, they're less confused. They know they're doing
feel
the
like
right
they are
thing.
in control, right?
Yes.
Won't they feel like they're in better control?
Yes.
That's a feeling. That's the thing. By the way, no matter how functional or technical your product is, there is a feeling. I mean, even Walmart, which is all about economic benefit, what's the feeling?
Awful.
I got a better deal. You know, rich people shop at all these discount places because they want to, you know, it's the art of the deal. You know, this is like, I'll never forget the story. So 20 years ago, our former dean, Don Jacobs, you do not want to negotiate with Don Jacobs. I mean, he's just this, you know, pain in the ass negotiator. So he goes to India for the first time. So he goes to Agra, sees the Taj Mahal. Outside, there are these guys selling statues. You know, and the general metric there is that, you know, they quote you about 10x. If you're an Indian tourist, and 20x if you're a foreign tourist. They'll look at your shoes and whatever and decide what price to quote you for. He's tchotchkes. So the guy comes and he says, how much is this? He says, 1,000 rupees. Don spent an hour negotiating with the guy, brought him down to 50. And then he says, here's 500 because the money is only $10 or $20, doesn't matter to me. I want to prove that I could bring you down to 50. So he's actually throwing away the economic benefit, but it makes him feel I kicked your ass. So never underestimate the power of emotional benefits in whatever you're doing. How does it make you feel? How does it make you know? This is how it's going to make you feel, because that's really, because one important thing is that this is logic, that's heart, right? This is body, this is mind, that's heart, and heart always wins. That's why it's on the top. But you got to start somewhere. It's like a relationship. You got to start here. First when you meet someone, you got to figure out what do you do, what's in your wallet. Then I'll tell you if I like you. Right? So you have to earn your way to get there. Apples earn their way to get there. And now love is blind. I have a colleague who works with me. We went to dinner one day and she sat down and her iPhone dropped out of her pocket and the screen shattered. This is the 5th iPhone screen she has shattered. What did she say? I gotta be more careful. If it was a Microsoft phone, what would she have said? Shitty phone. Love is blind. If Apple makes extremely flimsy products, and also they're very anal about you can't change the battery, no user control. They're so anal about this that when they built the iMac and they didn't want people to open it, so people started opening it. They put in a patented screw. It's called a pentalobe screw that cannot be opened by any commercially available screwdriver. That's how hard-ass Steve Jobs was. Do not open my product. Sealed it for you. It came from God. That's the way it's going to be. Do not try to do it. And then if you try to jailbreak your iPhone, the same thing. They really are hard-asses about it. So, anyway. So those are 3 types of benefits. Okay? So ultimately, in your value prop, you need to focus on the key scenarios, and this is how you describe the key scenarios for engineering. By the way, this is if you think about this is another way of that value expressing that value prop framework. Because now you've got the persona, the customer problem that you're solving. But here's the important thing: key scenario 1, key scenario 2. By the way, key scenario shouldn't be more than 1 or 2. And here's how we're different in terms of competing alternatives. And there are 3 competing alternatives you should always keep in mind: status quo, which is what they do currently. Competitors, why is this better than competitors in the category? And third, if you're selling a next version, how is it better than your previous version? Okay, so those are 3 reference points. And then what are the implementation requirements? What will we have to do in order to deliver on this promise? And by the way, you notice how if you step 1 column forward from this, it will be features. So this is how you feed engineering from a value prop. Because your implementation requirement then translates into features and specifications. All right, then now how do value props evolve? See, as your product evolves, right now you guys are somewhere here, right? Somewhere between concept and development. Is that accurate? So, one question I get asked sometimes is, when should we do the value proposition? Don't do what big companies do, which is they decide it after the fact. Why did we build this? Oh, we'll figure it out.